by popular demand. This is the Turnbucklepad Podcast on YouTube.com. Respect wrestling or get out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Turnbucklepad Podcast Season 2. As you already know, this season, we're spending our time with Warzone Wrestling for this season. So everything and anything we're doing, it's going to be coming or revolving around Warzone Wrestling. One of the benefits of working with this company is that they gave us an open door to really pretty much pick out and talk to whoever we wanted to. And some people were very eager to come and just be on the podcast. And one of my guests today, Mr. Underdog Sean Cruz. Say hi to the fans for us, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Underdog here.
We get to hear from this gentleman here. He's going to tell us a little bit about his experience in the business, what he likes and what he don't. And first off, congratulations on being a father and everything. I know that's a pretty big deal that happened recently for you.
Yes, sir. She'll be 3 in June, man. It completely changed my life. Like anybody who's personally known me over the last 15 years can tell you, yeah, it's a complete 180 from, how it used to be.
I can understand that. It's amazing how, with this business, how cutthroat focused you have to be to really get to where you want to. And that persona kind of just takes on an entity of its own, but then you go and have the kid outside of there, and then you get completely humbled. Did that, cause any conflict with your character or what you were trying to do?
Yeah, well, to start with, I spent a majority of my career. I got started back in 2002. I was trained by Tracy Gilbert out of Roseboro, North Carolina. We actually had a school in Clinton, North Carolina called the ACBW Training Academy. Also, the Dawson brothers, Zane and Dave Dawson, Casey McKnight, who's now Scott Dawson in WWE NXT. We all worked there. That was where I got the basis of my knowledge at.
Okay.
And it was funny, back when I was in high school, I got picked on a lot, so I was a bully. I was bullied. So once I got out of high school, I started hitting the weights. I started, doing these things different than I did in high school. And unfortunately, sometimes you get ego. Sometimes you start getting that bully mentality yourself.
Uh-huh.
So unfortunately, I'm not proud of it, but I've spent a lot of my career as the bad guy, so to speak, the bully.
Mm-hmm.
But once I had my kid, man, it's like everything changed. It's like, it's one thing when you got the fans looking up to you, which, God bless them. Without the fans, we wouldn't be able to do what we love to do.
Right.
But when you've got your own little girl that you want her to be proud of you, you don't want your little girl to think you're some mean guy that, bullies people around. So, it got me thinking that, it's time to do some changing and to do some positive things and to make a difference. So that's where the Underdog thing came from. And like I said, I'm just trying to, have fun. It's funny, man, like you said, you stay laser focused and, you're thinking about the business 24/7 and then you have a kid and it's like you realize what's really important. And now I can honestly say I'm having more fun this time around than I ever did, in the last 15 years.
Yeah, I've had quite a few friends myself in the wrestling business who, they were very 24/7 wrestling this, wrestling that, and then they went and had their kid, and I saw a complete 180 in them as well, and it's, that rugged exterior you get from this business, man, it can really put a damper on you if it's not under control.
Absolutely, and the most important thing now is to have a good woman behind you, especially in this business. Like, without my wife, Bridget, man, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do. So I owe everything in my career up to this point. We've only been married, almost 8 years, but my career now and going forward, I owe it all to her. Like, it's without her support, and everything she does for me behind the scenes, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, that definitely matters. Being in the business now for as long as you have been, when your child starts taking to it, is that something you're going to encourage them to do, or would you try to tell them, wait a minute, let's talk about it first?
Well, that's kind of funny you say that. I really have a problem with it. I think the wife might be a little more apprehensive, but like I told her, man, kids are kids. I'm not gonna tell my kids they can't be something. I'm not gonna put boundaries on them.
Right.
So if that's what she's already got in the ring, and before a show Saturday, as a matter of fact, she got in there, rolled around a little bit with us, and she had a glass. So, I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, but I'm not going to put limits on what my kid can and cannot do.
Yeah, I've always admired people who brought their kids to wrestling shows that were working, and you know, watching all the guys take turns getting in the ring and rolling around and goofing off and just having fun. I mean, it's one of those special things that I see in wrestling that I don't see in any other sports industry. It's just that time they take out to do that.
Yeah, I think that's very important too, man. I mean, it's funny to say. Trust me, I love wrestling. I love the athleticism of it. I love, you know, entertaining the crowd. But one of the best things to me about wrestling is the actual brotherhood. And, you know, you get to spend time with your friends, especially when you take the road trips together and the memories you have. I mean, long after the bumps have been taken and the ring's been taken down and your career's over or whatever, what have you, you're still going to have those memories, you know. And then if you can have your family and the wrestling family together, I mean, it just doesn't get better than that, man. That's you know, you watch your people say living the dream. That's living the dream to me. Like, honestly, I don't have to be this guy that gets famous and gets one of these six-figure contracts or whatever. You know, as long as you know, I feel like I'm having a positive effect on the people that, you know, I entertain, and that I make those lasting friendships, and, you know, that I have my family involved. That's the most important part. You know, when you've got that backbone, you've got that family support, because it gets lonely out on the road, man. If you're doing these drives and you're taking, you know, 6 hours to this show or 8 hours to this show, and you're doing 2 or 3 a weekend, you know, by yourself or even with your boys, it's just not the same as having your family there, you know?
Yeah. Because even after a while, I mean, I think it goes just in life in general, too. You spend enough time around someone nonstop for a large amount of time, you can be liable to get sick of that person, unless it's family and you love them to death.
Absolutely.
So, what were some of your inspirations? Tell us, like, one of your earliest memories that got you hooked on wrestling.
Man, well, see, I was born in '81, so I grew up with the WWF, you know, the Hulk Hogan, and it's funny, I was never really a Hogan guy, I was more of a Warrior guy, but once you get older and you see the difference between what Hogan was doing and what Warrior was doing, you have to be a Hogan guy. I mean, you love the guy or hate him, just like Cena right now.
Yeah.
Cena, I mean, I know Kurt Angle said the other day that Cena's the greatest of all time, and I can't argue with that. You know, I mean, I love Ric Flair, I love Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was my man, my inspiration. It's funny because my name is actually Michael Shawn, which is kind of weird. But and he's Shawn Michael, right? So, yeah, he was a huge influence. But, you know, you talk about Cena, everything he does, not just inside the ring, but outside the ring, you know, all the Make-A-Wish stuff, and that's the stuff to me that's important. It's like, he's really making a mark and, you know, making a positive difference, not just in what he does in wrestling. And I know people boo him and say he's got 5 moves to doom and all this other stuff, but, I mean, honestly, can you not tell me that match he had with AJ Styles at the Rumble was not one of the greatest matches of all time?
It was a damn good match. I'm actually glad to see Cena actually wrestling more.
Yeah. It was good. I mean, the fans too, man, especially WWE, are just giving these guys a hard time. They're all over him now. It's like, I don't know, man. I miss the days, like when I was growing up watching wrestling, there was no dirt sheets, there was no internet, there was no spoilers.
Amen to that.
It was like Santa Claus, you know what I mean? It was like the fantasy. It was you know, it's like people are so quick now to just try to crush everybody's dreams and fantasies and like, oh, that's not real, or you know, this guy's not real, or that's not, you know, that's whatever. This guy's no good, and he does this on the side. Like, we didn't care about any of that stuff growing up, man. It was like we wanted to be Hulk Hogan, we wanted to be the Warrior, we wanted to be these guys that were larger than life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're missing from wrestling too, is a lot more characters. You know, like everybody wants to be like bad, you know, the big bad dudes like Steve Austin or the Undertaker or Triple H. And,
yeah.
Nobody wants to be Doink the Clown. Nobody wants to be Doink the Clown anymore. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to be the entertaining guy.
Right.
I don't know, man. I guess it's just different. And you know, with the styles too, like the ROH style. And a lot of people don't like it. I think it's amazing. I think it's super athletic. I mean, if you want to talk psychology, no, it's not always there, but it's different. Like, look at Lucha Underground. There's another one. Lucha Underground is one of my absolute favorite things to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's absolutely entertaining. It's amazing to watch these guys do these things that, you know, it's like, wow, how did they do that? Like, it's just, and it's, I don't know, I guess I'm just easy when it comes to wrestling. I'm still that little kid, man. I used to watch, you know, Saturday Night Main Event and that kind of stuff. and really be into it, you know. And I know it's frowned on in this business. You know, the word mark gets thrown around a lot, but I'm always going to be a fan of wrestling. You know what I mean? It's like, I've never understood that. Like, okay, if I'm in a garage band and Metallica, I go see them in concert, and I get a chance to meet them, and I say, man, you guys were a huge influence on me, and I want to be just like you guys or whatever. I mean, odds are, well, Metallica might, some people say they're jerks, whatever, but they wouldn't say, no, man, you're a mark, you're never going to be like us. I think like it's the only business. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, and I think if someone came and told me something like that, I'd take it as, you know, as a positive thing, because it's easy to discourage people and it's easy to block people, but there's a lot more honor in it if you could build somebody up and help them find that self-confidence, help them find the best in them so they can have the best in life.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like when I first started, you know, rolling, it was probably maybe 2004, 2005 when I finally started getting my footing. And I was hanging around, I'm not going to mention names, but I was hanging around with people that kind of put that sour attitude into me, and when these young kids would come up, he would, you know, quote unquote, try to bury them. But why do that? You know,
yeah.
If somebody's willing to learn and somebody wants to make this business better, it's like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, everybody's wearing, these guys don't even wear gear, they get gear from Hot Topic, or, well, it's like, help them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, now, there's certain people in this business, in life, that you're just not going to get along with. But you make that effort, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to just bury a guy. Like if a promoter calls you up and says, hey, you know, I'm thinking about you from so-and-so, what do you think about it? I mean, right there, you pretty much got somebody's career potentially in your hands. And you don't ever know what this person might become. I mean, you think some of these guys that became Hall of Famers were always just great?
Oh, no, not at all.
I don't think so.
No, they all had to start somewhere, and they had to put the work in and get there.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's just the way I feel about it, man. It's probably the most cutthroat business I've ever seen. And as far as the rumor mill and the he said, she said, and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, it's worse than high school.
Yeah,
like a bunch of gossip. And, I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. I was doing a show one time here in North Carolina. Something happened. We won't get into it, but something happened. And I got a phone call the same night from a guy who was working in Canada. They said, hey, I just heard about what happened at the show. It's crazy. It's like,
yeah.
News travel fast, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, you got a reputation, and once you get, you know, blacklisted or you do that one thing that's like the no-no, it's hard to get it back, man. I mean, I've had a lot of heat on me for personal reasons over my career, and it's hard to get that off of you. And that's the main thing I try to stress to some of these younger guys that come up to me now. I mean, I'm not like a veteran by any means. I'm about to be 36 this year. But I've been around, and I've seen things, and I've experienced personal things, and I just tell them to stay clear. You know, it's like, you come to the show, you do your job, you know, as long as the promoter's happy and the fans are happy, that's it. All that extracurricular stuff, man, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. Trust me, there'll be time for all that, you know.
Yeah, all things come in time. You know, a lot of people, I think a lot of the guys nowadays, because anybody thinks they can be a wrestler, they just jump head in and start learning everything they get their hands on, but they forget that most of the experience and the best training you're going to get is by living the experience and actually doing it.
Absolutely. And you know, there's a lot of guys out there that are training people that probably shouldn't be. You know, it's like the blind leading the blind thing, but, you know, especially in North Carolina, it's tough to not have that because we don't have a commission here. So you don't have to have a license, you don't have to have a motor's license, insurance, none of that stuff. So all you got to pretty much have is a ring, some guys that are willing to work, cheap, free, whatever, and that's it. They're building a run in. And guess what? You're a promoter. So
yeah.
That was really rampant and bad back when I first got in. Now, really, I don't see where it's as prevalent as it once was. We've actually got a lot of really good fans here in North Carolina now.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. I mean, I've always had a very fond respect for the states that were really big and involved in the territory days, because those states still has that. It has that euphoria, what makes wrestling special. It still has that uniqueness there, and it's still respected and appreciated in its art form. And it's not like that everywhere, because now that fans know too much, you know, you go to a show looking for that euphoria, that special something, but then you start going to a bunch of the same ones, seeing the same guys, it doesn't feel like it's special anymore.
Right, exactly, and that's kind of what I was hitting on with the whole, you know, dirt sheets, and everybody can just look on the internet and just get a spoiler. Oh, so-and-so's coming back tonight. Or, it's like, why would you want to do that? Like, to me, that's like, you want to go see a movie, but then you read the spoilers on, like, the entire plot of the movie before you go see it. I don't understand it. It's like, if you hate wrestling that much, don't watch it.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way I feel. It's like, and for those people that pick on people that like it and say, oh, it's fake, they don't know it's fake, and this and that. Well, what is fake? Define fake to me. Is it predetermined? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so if you want to go with that argument, then life is fake, right? Because it's predetermined, because you know you're going to die. Everybody's going to die.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, so I don't know, like, I know Bret Hart had a quote one time where he said, he'd run into people at the airport, and they would never say, hey, man, you're one heck of an actor. They'd say, hey, you're a fake, or you're a phony. And I don't understand why this business is like that,
I think over time, I think the business really lost the respect of what made the business special. I think it was the respect that changed, and when kayfabe was exposed, and then the internet took over, spoilers, websites, leaks. I think technology did a big part of it helped the business, but it also killed the business.
Right.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword there, but something I wanted to get back to with you, something you mentioned earlier, because you said that you were born in '81 and you were a diehard wrestling fan as a kid, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, was I the only one who took those G.I. Joes that came out that were roughly about 4 inches big, and they had the arms that moved better than the actual wrestlers you bought in the store, so you could do more wrestling moves, and you start doing G.I. Joe wrestling with them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we had more G.I. Joe wrestlers, because, back then they just had the hard, like, rubber guys. Remember the ones?
Spring Action.
King Kong Bundy and those guys. They didn't even have the ones with the articulate movements like they do now.
Yeah. And plus, too, I remember as a kid, as a wrestling fan as a kid, a lot of these generations now won't know this or even try to, but I remember as a kid, when you used to hold those matches and have G.I. Joe wrestling, you had to be the referee, you had to be the commentator, you had to do the lighting effects, you had to do the entrance music all yourself, and it was a great time for a wrestling fan.
Exactly. Well, and honestly, I think just in life in general, like, people have gotten so, what's the word? I guess complacent, maybe spoiled. Like you said, they've got the little, like, my stepson's got one of the WWE, entrance deals, and when the guy comes out, he plays his entrance music and the lights and all that. Like,
yeah.
It takes, like you said, it takes the creativity away from it.
Yeah.
I think if you look at, movies, for example, all they're doing is remaking old movies. Like, they don't really have any something new anymore. It's like, I think the world in general has just become, I don't know, spoiled, a lot less creative. But yeah, definitely, like to your point, I remember those days when you had to do it all yourself.
Yeah, and the heavyweight championship was probably bigger than the G.I. Joe.
It definitely was. It definitely was, man.
Those were the days.
That is going back to those were definitely the days. Well, that was also the days when you would, go and play outside and you could drink from the garden hose and all those things. Now, all kids know now is I would say video games, but it's not even that anymore. It's just the internet. And YouTube. And, it's crazy, man. It's like, you can't get a kid to go outside.
Yeah, one of the greatest things of being a wrestling fan at that age, I think, was when you used to wrestle with your friends and you'd come to school the next day hurt or injured, and you had to play it off like it was a scar of honor. You know what I mean? It was something along those lines. You just had to play it off like you were cool because you were wrestling.
Oh, yeah, man, absolutely. Dude, we used to, we would, like, wait till somebody would, like, be out of town, their parents would be out of town, and then all the guys would go over to that person's house, take all the furniture out, put it in the yard, and put mattresses and stuff down in the house, and we'd have little wrestling shows.
Oh, like, yeah.
That's how gung-ho, that's how gung-ho and serious we were.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of kids doing that nowadays, because some kids, you always have those kids and those accidents that happen where they think it's real and they do it, and tragedy strikes, and it's unfortunate, but...
Yeah.
I don't blame the business for that. I don't blame the entertainers for that. It's a freak accident. That's why I did the disclaimer.
That's like watching like a Jackie Chan movie or something with a big stunt in it, and a kid does it and gets hurt. Do you blame Jackie Chan for doing it, or I don't know. I'm not condoning by any means trying what we do, because we are trained professionals, and it is dangerous what we do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's that whole creativity. Did you ever jump off the roof of your house thinking you were Superman when you were a kid, and you could fly with like a towel?
No.
Okay, well, some people did. Some people did stuff like that, I don't know. It depends. Just like the gun violence, and like I watched, growing up as a kid, man, I used to watch horror movies. My mom was a big horror fan. So I watched horror movies, and, I watched action movies and killer movies or whatever, played all those Grand Theft Auto games, and I've never once had a bad thought. It all depends on the person, I think.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think a lot of it comes to what you're exposed to at a young age and how it's educated to you. That's what I think it is.
You're definitely shaped by your environment, that's for sure.
Amen to that. Well, check it out. We got a question for you, and we ask this question to all our guests every season, and we're not going to stop now. What advice would you give to someone that wants in the business or someone that's still new in the business?
Let's see. Someone that wants in the business, don't do it. If someone is in the business new, get out. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, make sure you're doing it for the right reason. I think that's the number one thing. If you want to get in just because you want to call yourself a wrestler or a wrestler, so to speak, don't do it. Don't be a weekend warrior. If you're not willing to put in the time to study tape, if you're not willing to put in the time in the gym, if you're not willing to put money into real gear, you know what I mean? Don't do it. Because you're taking a spot from somebody who, sees this as a dream, sees this as something, that they want to do. They've thought about their whole lives doing since they were a little kid. That's my advice for that. Now, if you're in the business and you're young, be a sponge, man. Like, don't just, what is the old adage? Keep your ears open and your mouth shut.
Yes, sir.
That's it, man. Be a sponge. Listen, I don't care who it is. If it's this guy that's been wrestling for 20 years and he's just a local indie guy, listen to everybody. You never stop learning in this business. Ricky Morton told us that a long time ago. He's like, if you ever think you know everything there is to know about this business, get out. Period. Like, it doesn't, even me being in this thing 15 years, I still learn new stuff. And I honestly, just because there's a guy that's come in, he's been wrestling for a year, but if he is doing something that, I think I can incorporate into what I do to make what I do better or more believable, then I'm going to talk to him. There's no reason to just shut somebody down just because, what's the old saying? They want you to do good but not better than them.
Right.
There's a lot of guys like that in the business. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the bigger problems. Is there's these guys that they like all your stuff on Facebook and they'll share stuff like that. But once, like I've had a few friends that have been doing ROH spots and things like that here recently, and you see it, you see the jealousy. And it's just sad, man. It's like these are your friends. You're supposed to be happy for them just because you didn't get a certain well maybe that's not your lot in life is to get where they're at, but you still support them and you still keep that friendship and that brotherhood. It's just so funny to me how it ends up going away.
Yeah.
How quick it goes away once this guy reaches this level, But I don't know. That's just my experience. But yeah, it's definitely, man. It's been a lot of fun. Wrestling gives a lot, but it takes a lot. That's another thing I'll say. Be willing to sacrifice, whether it's your body, your relationship, your whatever. I mean, guys. I know guys that drive 8 hours and sleep in their car just so they save money on a hotel room so they can wrestle. Like you've got to be willing to put the work in and do the drive. You got to get your name out there. Don't expect to get rich. That's another thing. If you're getting into it for money, get out. That's I'll tell you that right now.
These are very, very outspoken, very truthful words you've been sharing with us today. Fans wanted to find you. How can they find you?
I think I'm just on Facebook now. I do have a Twitter, but I really don't mess with it that much. But I'm on Facebook. It's Sean Cruz. I really don't know the address because I don't the URL. But if you just search Sean Cruz on Facebook, CANCRUISE, you'll find it. Cool.
Well, fans, unfortunately, we've reached our time limit today with Mr. Sean Cruz. Sean, thanks again for stopping by the show. And fans, if you're in the North Carolina area, you got a chance to see his work, go check him out. You still work for Warzone, so he'd be an easy guy to find.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Until then, fans, I'm your host, Mike Stover. This has been my guest, the Underdog Sean Cruz. We're out.